Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Edgar Cisneros, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cutting off the weak sauce rear track bar bracket and the rest of this contraption, and we're going to be upgrading it to something a little bit beefier, alright? We're going to be installing this Synergy rear weld-on track bar bracket, alright? Now, before we get to the install of the actual bracket, I want to bring you in a little bit closer so you can see the reason why I'm replacing it, and it should give you guys an idea of what to look for on your vehicle to see if it's time to replace yours, alright? We'll also take a closer look at the actual bracket and show you guys the reasons why I picked the Synergy bracket over the rest of them, alright? So let's take a look. Oh, and for those of you that want to skip over the how to inspect your track bar bracket for signs of it needing to be replaced, you can just fast forward to the number below to get to the actual install portion of the video. This is what we got going on. Alright, you got your raised bolt-on track bar bracket. Fortunately, this one ties into the bump stock perch, where there's others that only bolt up to the stock bracket itself and doesn't spread load the force to any other area. Alright, so if you have one that directly just ties into the stock bracket, I will take a closer look at what there is I'm about to show you here in a second. A good sign that you have deflection on your bracket is you'll see paint chipping at the toe of the weld, right? Everything's painted and the material starts flexing left to right, up and down, all right? You'll see paint chipping and followed by some rust, okay? So here, it's kind of hard to see with my headlamp here, right? But right where the shadow is of my pencil here, that's where it's been deflecting or moving, right? From left to right. We go on the right side of the bracket and you have the same thing all the way up. By inspecting the toes of the welds on both sides and the base metal around it, it's showing signs of the bracket moving this way, right, in that direction. And now I know it's not drastic movement, but it's enough to weaken the base metal. So it's just a matter of time for it to weaken it enough to the point where it's going to rip off. I'm going to be attaching a link to one of my videos that shows significant movement in a front track bar bracket and has more obvious signs of movement. Let's take a closer look at the bracket. Alright, remember, this is their raised track bar bracket. It has 3 adjustment settings. The material is 3/16 all the way around. There are no loose pieces that you have to fit, tack, and weld. They already did that for you. Alright, now let's take a closer look at the welds. Yeah, buddy, it's nice. Alright, enough talking, let's get this started. Now, this isn't in the directions, but I decided to take a quick measurement and use it for reference only. You may not be able to do the same if your bracket is all mangled. You can install this bracket with your axle still underneath your Jeep. However, I decided to pull it out so you guys can get a closer look at the process. If you do remove the axle, I would tape up these areas before you start cutting and welding. This old bracket served its purpose for a while, but now it will make friends with our forever growing scrap pile. There are 3 areas to cut. I'm marking them as a reminder to myself, just in case I get carried away with the grinder. Now, you don't need a torch or a plasma cutter. You can cut this off with a simple grinder and a cutoff wheel. I do recommend cutting as close to the axle tube as possible without digging into the tubing. The more material from the bracket that you leave now means more cleanup later. I like following the cutting disc with a grinding stone, then smoothing everything over with a flap disc. You can skip the grinding stone and go straight to the flap disc, but you tend to go through flap disc a whole lot quicker that way. Now we find out the correct location of the bracket, left to right and up and down around the axle tube. First, we need to find the center of the axle. I use a framing square in this position and marked 8 1/8. Then went to the other side and marked 8 1/8. If these 2 marks don't align, then split the difference and make a new mark. Now, to double check this mark, what you could do is pull the measuring tape from the disc brake center. It's going to be about 30 1/2. Go to the other side and it should line up with that last mark that you have. Next, I leveled the diff spreader flats on the back of the differential. You can use those $5 Harbor Freight ones, or you can get a digital one like this Wixie angle finder I bought for $26 on Amazon. It is extremely accurate and lets you know which direction you're off. I use the mag square to hold the bracket so I can bang it around into the correct location. Other than using it as a square, I also use it as a third hand when I'm working by myself sometimes. Next, the goal is to level the back face of the track bar bracket to the diff spreader flats. Here you can see how accurate this angle finder is. Alright, now the center of the bolt hole on the track bar bracket will be 17.5 inches away from that mark you made identifying the center of the axle. Hey, remember that reference measurement I took earlier? Yeah, it's the same measurement, about 13 and 3/16. Since I didn't strip the whole axle of paint, I decided to mark the weld zones after the bracket was in the correct spot. It's not a big deal, it just means I had to place the bracket in the correct location a second time. I guess I could have removed all the paint in the general area before all the measuring, but hey, hindsight is 20/20. I know some of you guys may be thinking having both magnets there, the mag square and the mag switch, which is the ground to my welding machine, would interfere with the tacking of the bracket, but it didn't. I did remove the mag square after the bracket was fully tacked up so I can weld it. I'm using 035 dual shield flux core with 7525 as my shielding gas. Now, I love using this process because I can use a very high setting and keep it there and do a vertical up, overhead, horizontal weld and the same setting. Unlike short circuit MIG where you would have to change it and you have more chances of cold lap versus this dual shield. I'll be quiet for a second so you can listen to this beautiful sound. Do you weld just the outside of the bracket or the outside and the inside? Well, if you can get into the inside, I would do both. I know I did. Let's take a closer look at what's under the slag. Yeah, buddy. She's a beauty. It may not be that iconic short circuit MIG stack of dimes, but she's in there. And it gets the job done, especially when you're welding thick material. That pretty much wraps up this project. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with any future projects that I have going on here in the garage. Thanks for watching, guys.